Interesting. Come to find out, Trading Places was really supposed to be for Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, but because of what was going on with certain uses of certain pharmaceuticals, that was not going to be allowed on the set. So they were replaced by Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. Ironically, the pair of these two were incredible together because if you go back to Silver Street, Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, which is one of my favorites, and that's when a young Kevin Spacey was on the scene. If you can watch that film. The only film that I didn't like that the pair did was Another You. That was where the totality, you could saw Richard Pryor deteriorated. But their chemistry on screen was uncanny. Now, Wilder says off they weren't that cool. And I can believe him because I saw a Richard Pryor interview where he was just unloading on Wilder like it was nobody's business. He dropped all kinds of the tea and the lemonade and the ice cubes and the sugar and the stir and the spoon and the... He really went in. Depends on how you look at it. Hindsight, the people would call Richard Pryor crazy, but what he said about the industry then, think about what you've seen the last few years. Anyway, so, we're interested to find out they would have done Trading Places. Now, would it have worked? Well, Richard Pryor to me was always the king of comedy. He always will be. But I got to say, fresh face, hungry Eddie Murphy was the right fit for that movie. And Dan Aykroyd was stiffer than Gene Wilder is. Even though Gene is a pretty ordinary white dude, he ain't stiff in the pants like Aykroyd walks around all, tight cheek, stiff neck turkey, like, oh yes, and all. So that went to the right person. That role, that actually was the better fit in hindsight. Sometimes we always like, well, this is what I talk about favorites and then what's the best. I consider Pryor to be the far superior comedian, Eddie Murphy, but for the role, Eddie was the favorite, and there's no doubt in my mind he was the right man for that role. And Dan Aykroyd was the right man for the role. Aykroyd is a good actor. He's good. He has good comedic chops, but I think Wilder is naturally more funnier. But again, looking at the totality of everything, I'd have to say he went to the right people. So it's interesting when you find out originally Trading Places was supposed to be for Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. It makes sense because of the black and white pairings in film of the last 40 plus years. Those two's rhythm hasn't really been matched. Now you had, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and White Man Can't Jump. You had chemistry. You've had chemistry with White Man. You can always guess you could say Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, but it don't hit like Pryor and Wilder did. It doesn't really hit because they hit it in a way where it was almost uncanny that you didn't see those